Observation Station Sector 7G shimmered like a crystalline construct against the backdrop of stars, its architecture reflecting the diverse species that comprise the Galactic Confederacy. The station, strategically positioned at the edge of a spatial anomaly that had remained dormant for centuries, served as both sentinel and scientific outpost for the Confederacy, a testament to their technological prowess and political unity, however fragile that unity might be. Commander Vree, a Xyler whose crystalline form refracted the ambient light of the command center into harmonious patterns, oscillated slightly, a sign of irritation among his kind. The daily reports showed nothing unusual, just as they had for decades. The anomaly zone remained quiet. The various diplomatic tensions between member species remained at their usual simmer, and the bureaucratic demands from Central Command remained tedious. Another cycle, another non-event. Vree communicated through harmonic wavelengths that the station's translators converted for the benefit of the multi-species crew. The first indication that today would be different came as a subtle fluctuation in the station's sensor readings. A junior officer, a Terran barely 3 years in her rotation, frowned at her console. "Commander, I'm detecting unusual quantum fluctuations from the anomaly zone. Pattern doesn't match any known natural phenomenon." Vree glided to the monitoring station, his crystalline structure vibrating with heightened attention. "Magnitude increasing exponentially, sir. Energy signature is... Sir, it's tearing space-time." Before Vree could issue orders, alarms blared across the station. The view screen showed what no simulation could have prepared them for, a violent rupture in the fabric of reality itself. It wasn't an explosion or an energy discharge. It was as if somebody had grabbed space itself and ripped it open. The tear pulsated with energies that defied classification, sensor readings fluctuating wildly between contradictory values. "Full alert. Contact Confederate Command. All defensive systems online." Vree's harmonic speech pattern fractured with urgency. The crew scrambled to comply, but their actions seemed futile against the incomprehensible event unfolding before them. The tear widened, and from within its impossible depths, something began to emerge. It was a ship, or at least it had the general configuration of one. Its geometry seemed to challenge fundamental laws of physics, angles connecting in ways that shouldn't be possible. Its surface absorbed light rather than reflected it, creating an impression of infinite depth. It didn't so much move into space as it simply appeared, as if it had always been there and reality had just now acknowledged its presence. The station's senior analyst, a Meverin with 6 neural clusters optimized for pattern recognition, was the first to make the connection. "Commander," the Meverin's voice trembled through the translator. "Profile matching indicates. It's the Vanguard." A heavy silence fell over the command center. "Impossible," Vree responded after a moment. "The Terran vessel Vanguard was lost 11 standard years ago. Sir, fundamental structural markers are a match, despite significant alterations. It is the Vanguard." The Vanguard had been Earth's pride, a heavy exploration vessel dispatched to investigate the then-active anomaly zone. Its disappearance had fueled conspiracy theories and diplomatic incidents for years, with some Confederacy factions accusing Earth of secret weapon tests gone wrong. Eventually, it had been classified as lost with all hands, another mystery of deep space exploration. Yet here it was, transformed beyond recognition, but unmistakably the Vanguard. "No energy signatures detectable," reported the sensor officer. "No radiation, no propulsion emissions, no life signs. It's as if it's not really there." "It's there," Vree responded grimly. "Contact Confederate High Command. Alert the Earth delegation. Deploy defensive squadrons, but maintain distance. No engagement without direct authorization." As the station's response unfolded with practiced precision, the Vanguard remained motionless and silent. Every scan attempt returned either null results or paradoxical readings that made the sensor analysts question their equipment. Attempts at communication met with absolute silence. Word spread quickly through Confederate channels. The High Council convened an emergency session. Earth's representatives were summoned to explain, but they appeared as shocked as anyone else. Meanwhile, warships from a dozen species converged on Sector 7G, maintaining a respectful distance from the transformed Vanguard. Fear spread faster than information. The unknown vessel, with its impossible geometries and inexplicable return, represented everything the Confederacy feared. Uncontrolled technology, potential weapons of mass destruction, or worse, contact with something beyond their understanding. Then, after 23 hours of absolute silence, the Vanguard transmitted a single, brief signal encoded in an ancient Earth military protocol. Confederate intelligence intercepted it, but could not break the encryption. The signal was directed solely to the United Earth Defense Command and contained only 7 words. Vector confirmed. Prepare for Chimera Protocol implementation. At UEDC headquarters on Luna, General Eva Rostova stared at the decrypted message on her secure terminal, her weathered face betraying no emotion despite the turmoil in her mind. Around the conference table sat the highest-ranking military and political leaders of Earth, all equally stunned by the message. Chimera Protocol, Defense Minister Huang whispered. That's just a theory, a contingency plan that was never approved. Rostova's voice was steady when she spoke. Chimera was more than theory. It was classified beyond your clearance, Minister. Before anyone could demand explanations, the air in the center of the room shimmered, reality folding in on itself. Guards raised weapons as 2 figures materialized, a man and a woman in what resembled modified Vanguard uniforms. Stand down, Rostova ordered immediately, recognizing the newcomers despite subtle changes in their appearance. Captain Eris Thorne stood tall and straight, his dark skin now bearing faint, geometric patterns just beneath the surface. His eyes held a depth that hadn't been there 11 years ago, a gaze that seemed to see beyond the physical realm. Beside him, Dr. Alara Vance looked similarly transformed. Her red hair was now streaked with silver, and a barely perceptible energy field shimmered around both of them. General Rostova. Thorne's voice was exactly as she remembered, yet somehow resonated on multiple frequencies. We have very little time. Security protocols demanded hours of verification, medical examinations, and interrogations. Rostova bypassed them all with a single command authorization, clearing the room of all but the highest-ranking officials. Whatever Thorne and Vance had to say, it was clearly beyond standard security concerns. 11 years. Rostova began once they were alone. Explain. Dr. Vance spoke first. For you, it's been 11 years. For us, time became more fluid. Her voice carried the same multi-frequency quality as Thorne's. The Vanguard wasn't destroyed or lost. We were selected. Selected by whom? Demanded the UEDC intelligence director. By those we call the Shapers, Captain Thorne replied. An ancient race that transcended physical existence billions of years ago. They pulled us into what you might call subspace, a layer of reality beneath our own. Why? Rostova asked simply. Because something is coming, Vance said, her eyes reflecting something between dread and wonder. Something that devours galaxies. Not a species or a weapon, but a process, a failure in the fundamental laws of reality that spreads like a cancer through the universe. The Shapers call it the eraser. Thorne continued. The Shapers have been fighting it for eons, containing outbreaks across multiple galaxies. But they're few now, their resources stretched thin. They needed instruments. That's what we've become. You're saying your crew has been, what? Evolved? Enhanced? Asked Rostova. Transformed, Vance corrected. Not just technologically, but biologically, neurologically, perceptually. The ship, too, it's now a semi-organic entity, capable of locally redefining spatial laws. Thorne added, we've been given the tools and abilities to fight the eraser, to contain it, to reverse its effects. But we need freedom to operate and Earth support. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, General Rostova spoke. You understand what's happening out there? The Confederacy is on the verge of quarantining Earth completely. They see your ship as a threat. We know, Thor nodded. But the real threat makes Confederate politics irrelevant. We need you to buy us time, General. Rostova studied them both carefully. In her 60 years of military service, she had developed an uncanny ability to judge character, to sense deception. She saw none in Thorne or Vance. Only urgency, purpose, and something else. A profound awareness that seemed almost painful in its intensity. I believe you, she said finally. But convincing the Confederacy will be another matter entirely. In the following hours, Rostova enacted multiple classified protocols, formally recognizing the Vanguard's return while revealing nothing about Thorne and Vance's explanations. Her strategy was simple: delay, deflect, and prepare for all contingencies. Meanwhile, in the Confederacy High Council, Earth's ambassador faced increasing hostility. The mysterious ship's appearance and Earth's apparent foreknowledge, evidenced by their encrypted communications, fueled suspicions that had simmered for decades. The Terran government must surrender this vessel for safety evaluation, demanded the Xerix representative, a sentiment echoed by several other species. Its capabilities clearly violate Treaty Article 27 regarding unregistered dimensional technologies. Earth's ambassador, following Rostova's instructions, neither confirmed nor denied anything. We are still assessing the situation. The vessel has made no hostile moves. Its very existence is hostile, countered the Brennari delegate. It appeared through means unknown, refuses all communication except with Earth, and possesses technology beyond Confederate oversight. The debate grew increasingly heated until the High Council issued its ultimatum. Earth must surrender the Vanguard for inspection within 72 hours, or face Confederacy sanctions, possibly even military intervention. When informed of this development, Thorne and Vance exchanged a look that conveyed volumes. We're running out of time, Vance said to Rostova. The eraser is manifesting faster than the Shapers predicted. We've detected preliminary distortions in 3 sectors already. How long? Rostova asked. Weeks, not months, Thorne replied. We need to move soon. Rostova faced an impossible choice: comply with the Confederacy and potentially lose humanity's only defense against an existential threat, or defy the ultimatum and risk interstellar war. With characteristic decisiveness, she issued orders preparing for both scenarios simultaneously. Whatever happens, she told Thor and Vance, the Vanguard will have its chance. Across the galaxy, disturbing reports began filtering through various channels. A mining colony in the Cygnus Arm reported stars dimming without explanation. A Medusan outpost went silent after transmitting garbled messages about reality thinning. Several psychically gifted species reported an unsettling void spreading through the collective consciousness of the universe. The Confederacy dismissed these incidents as unrelated, focusing instead on the standoff with Earth. But aboard the Vanguard, Captain Thorne and Dr. Vance monitored these events with grim recognition. Pre-tremors, Vance explained to the ship's neural interface. Reality erosion beginning at the quantum level. The Vanguard, now a hybrid of technology and consciousness, processed this information across its evolved systems. The ship had become something unprecedented, part machine, part organic matter, part folded space-time. Its exterior remained recognizable as a vessel only because it chose to maintain that appearance for the benefit of human comprehension. As the Confederacy's ultimatum neared its deadline, tensions reached breaking point. The moderate factions argued for further investigation, while hardliners prepared for military action against both the Vanguard and Earth. Fear spread as more unexplained phenomena were reported across various sectors, though few made the connection. A squadron of Confederate scout ships, acting on orders from a hardline faction, attempted to approach the Vanguard for a deep scan. The ship responded, not with conventional weapons, but by creating a localized spatial bubble around the squadron. Within this bubble, physical laws temporarily inverted. The ships weren't destroyed, but their crews experienced a brief time loop where cause followed effect, where space folded back on itself, where their own thoughts became externalized. When the bubble dissipated seconds later, the squadron found itself pushed back to a safe distance, their crews traumatized but physically unharmed. The incident was recorded and sent to Confederate command, igniting even greater fear of the Vanguard's capabilities. General Rostova, recognizing that further delay was impossible, made her decision. She formally rejected the Confederate ultimatum, asserting Earth's sovereignty over the Vanguard and warning of a greater threat that the Confederacy was ignoring. Simultaneously, she authorized Thorne and Vance to proceed with their mission. "Do what you need to do," she told them during their final communication. "Earth will handle the politics." The Confederacy's response was swift. By formal vote, they authorized military action against both Earth and the Vanguard. Massive fleets began assembling, preparing for what could become the first full-scale interstellar war in centuries. But before the first shots could be fired, the Vanguard detected an unusually powerful pre-tremor emanating from a distant nebula, a sign that the eraser was about to manifest more tangibly. Without warning, the ship simply vanished from Confederate sensors, folding the space around itself and departing for the coordinates where reality itself was under threat. The Shroud Nebula had once been a spectacular formation of gas, dust, and newly forming stars. Now, something was wrong with it at a fundamental level. Stars within it dimmed unnaturally, gas clouds moved in physically impossible patterns, and at its center, an absolute void. Not darkness, but an absence of everything, including space itself, was forming. The Vanguard emerged from its spatial fold at the nebula's edge. Inside the ship, the crew, all transformed like Thorne and Vance, took their positions. These weren't conventional battle stations. They were consciousness amplification nodes, reality stabilization points, causal anchors. The ship itself began to transform, its outer hull shifting and restructuring, forming patterns that defied conventional three-dimensional geometry. From a void at the nebula's center, the eraser began to manifest. It had no fixed shape, appearing instead as a tear in the fabric of reality itself, a multidimensional wound leaking anti-reality. Objects pulled into it didn't simply disappear. They ceased to have ever existed, their information erased from the universe's equations. "Stabilizers engaged," reported Lieutenant Costa from his consciousness node. Like all the crew, he had been transformed. His perception expanded, his mind partially merged with the ship's systems. Reality anchors deployed, added Commander Zhou, her voice resonating across multiple frequencies. Captain Thorne, connected more deeply to the ship than anyone except perhaps Dr. Vance, felt the Vanguard's readiness as if it were his own body tensing for action. Begin approach pattern. Prepare causal barriers. The Vanguard moved toward the eraser, not with conventional propulsion, but by redefining its position in space-time. It didn't deploy weapons in any traditional sense. Instead, it generated fields of stabilized reality, zones where the laws of physics were reinforced and locked into proper function, creating a barrier against the eraser's corruption. The eraser reacted. It sent out pulses of non-logic, waves that distorted cause and effect, that created local paradoxes that attacked not just the ship, but the very concept of the ship's existence. Where these pulses struck, portions of the Vanguard temporarily phased out of reality, only to be pulled back by the ship's self-sustaining causal loops. The crew felt every attack. They experienced multiple simultaneous versions of themselves, timelines where they had died, where they had never been born, where they had taken entirely different life paths. Dr. Vance, through the ship's neural interface, fought to maintain the crew's mental cohesion, reinforcing their place in this specific reality. Reality anchors holding at 60%, Zhou reported, her voice fluctuating between different possible versions of herself. Divert power from non-essential systems, Thorne ordered. Strengthen the forward barriers. The Vanguard pushed closer to the void, its structure groaning under the strain of maintaining consistent reality in the face of fundamental dissolution. The crew's consciousness, amplified and distributed throughout the ship, became the final defense against the Eraser's assault on their very existence. At the edge of the Shroud Nebula, automated Confederate scout drones recorded fragmented data about the confrontation. Their sensors, designed for conventional phenomena, could barely interpret what they were witnessing. Still, they transmitted enough information back to Confederate command to shock even the most hardened military leaders. "This is beyond anything we anticipated," admitted the Xerix fleet commander, watching the corrupted, partial feeds. "What in all the galaxies are we witnessing?" Inside the nebula, the battle, if such a conventional term could apply, reached its climax. The Vanguard, channeling energies taught by the Shapers, created a causal buffer zone around the Eraser. This wasn't a prison in the physical sense, but a reinforcement of reality's rules. A zone where the Eraser's corruption was slowed, contained, forced to obey the laws it sought to unravel. The effort cost the Vanguard dearly. Sections of its evolved hull blackened and crumbled as they sacrificed their structural integrity to power the buffer zone. Several crew members collapsed as their consciousness nodes overloaded. Captain Thorne felt parts of his enhanced mind going dark, burning out from the strain of directing such fundamental forces. "Buffer zone established," Dr. Vance announced, her voice weak but triumphant. "Containment at 87% and holding." The Eraser was not defeated. Perhaps it could never truly be defeated, but it was contained, temporarily trapped in the Shroud Nebula by the buffer zone. Its expansion halted, its corruption limited to a manageable area. "Withdraw," Thorne ordered, feeling the ship's systems failing around them. "Maximum distance. We need repairs." The Vanguard, its energy fields flickering and its structure compromised, pulled away from the contained Eraser. With the last of its spatial manipulation capabilities, it folded space once more and vanished from the nebula, seeking somewhere to heal and rebuild. The ship emerged in an empty region of space, far from Confederate patrols or established routes. Here, it began a complex repair process that was as much biological as technological. The ship's semi-organic systems initiated self-healing procedures, regrowing damaged sections and rebalancing energy distributions. The crew tended to their wounded. Some had suffered physical injuries, but the deeper trauma was psychological and existential. Several crew members had been permanently altered by direct exposure to the Eraser. Their personal timelines fractured, their memories containing events that both had and hadn't happened. Dr. Vance worked tirelessly, using the ship's neural interface to help stabilize their fragmented identities. Captain Thorne stood on the command bridge, although bridge was now an inadequate term for a space that was as much a neural nexus as a control center. He surveyed damage reports that came not through screens, but through direct neural feeds. "How long for repairs?" he asked the ship itself. The answer came not in words, but in impressions. Approximately 72 hours for essential systems, longer for full capacity. Within the Confederacy, the political landscape was shifting dramatically. The partial data from the scout drones, showing the Vanguard's confrontation with something that defied explanation, had shattered the consensus about military action. Many factions now questioned whether the Vanguard, and by extension, Earth, might indeed be responding to a threat beyond Confederate understanding. "The implications are clear," argued the Meveran representative in an emergency council session. Whatever the Vanguard engaged was not a natural phenomenon, nor any known weapon. Its behavior was consistent with a defensive action against an existential threat. "One convenient encounter does not absolve Earth of accountability," countered the Xerix delegate, though with noticeably less conviction than before. "The Vanguard still represents unregulated technology of impossible advancement." The hardline coalition against Earth began to fracture as more evidence emerged of strange phenomena throughout the galaxy. Phenomena that matched the patterns observed in the Shroud Nebula, albeit at a much smaller scale. Fear of the Vanguard was gradually being balanced by fear of something far worse. On Earth, General Rostova leveraged this shift in perception masterfully. without revealing the full truth about the Shapers or the extent of the Vanguard transformation. She positioned Earth as the first line of defense against a cosmic threat that concerned all species. "We did not seek this role," she told Confederate emissaries in a carefully staged briefing. "But we accept the responsibility that has fallen to us. The choice now is simple. Continue to treat us as adversaries and waste precious time, or join us in preparing for what comes next." The aftermath of the Shroud Nebula incident transformed Earth's position within the Confederacy. From a relatively junior member often viewed with suspicion, Earth became something more complicated. A potential protector, but also an unpredictable wild card, possessing technology and capabilities that defied Confederate understanding. General Rostova used this ambiguity to strengthen Earth's position, but privately, she faced increasing pressure from Earth's own government regarding control of the Vanguard. Many officials were uncomfortable with a ship of such power operating with apparent autonomy, following the directives of a crew transformed by alien influence. "We need oversight," the United Earth President insisted during a secure meeting. "Checks and balances." "With respect, Madam President," Rostova replied, "we cannot control or direct what we don't fully understand. The Vanguard and its crew represent our best hope against this threat. Sometimes the wisest form of leadership is knowing when to trust." As the Vanguard neared completion of its repairs, Captain Thorne and Dr. Vance stood before the ship's central neural nexus, a pulsating crystalline structure that served as the primary interface between the crew's enhanced consciousness and the ship's evolved systems. "The buffer won't hold indefinitely," Vance said, studying complex multidimensional models of the eraser's containment. 3 weeks, perhaps 4. And that's just this manifestation. There will be others. "The Shapers warned us this would be a long campaign," Thorne nodded. "One battle at a time." "We should contact Earth and the Confederacy," Vance suggested. "After what happened at the Shroud Nebula, they might be more receptive." Thorne considered this. A limited communication. Enough to prepare them, not enough to create panic. The Vanguard, fully repaired but forever changed by its encounter with the Eraser, sent a broad-spectrum transmission to both Earth and the Confederacy High Council. Unlike its previous encrypted message to UEDC, this was open and clear. The Eraser is only delayed. This is not one civilization's fight. Preparation must begin. The message offered no detailed explanation or specific demands, just a warning and a statement of the new reality facing all species. This cryptic communication created as many questions as it answered, but it achieved one critical outcome. It unified the conversation. Across the Confederacy, from the crystalline hives of the Xyler to the gas giant habitats of the Jovians, all species now acknowledged a common concern. Debates shifted from whether there was a threat to how it should be confronted. On Earth, General Rostova faced her own crossroads. The Vanguard's warning had galvanized global leadership, but divisions remained about how to proceed. Some advocated for full cooperation with the Confederacy, pooling resources and knowledge. Others argued for Earth to leverage its unique position, with the Vanguard as its ace, to secure dominance in a new galactic order. "We stand at a precipice," Rostova told her senior staff. "How we respond now will define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. We can choose fear and self-interest, or courage and unity." Meanwhile, the Vanguard once again vanished from all conventional sensors, retreating into subspace or some state beyond detection. Captain Thorne and Dr. Vance stood on the command bridge, watching displays showing complex models of the Eraser's propagation patterns across multiple dimensions and probability states. "We've won a battle," Thorne said quietly, "but the war has barely begun." Vance nodded, her enhanced perception allowing her to see beyond the immediate future to the cascading challenges ahead. "Do you ever wonder if we made the right choice? When the Shapers offered us this evolution," Thorne considered this. Despite everything they'd gained, perception beyond normal human limits, connection to the ship and to each other that transcended normal consciousness, lifespans potentially measured in centuries, they had lost something profound as well. their place in normal human society, their connection to the unenhanced world they'd once called home. I don't know if it was the right choice, he admitted finally, but it was the necessary one. Beyond the viewports of the command bridge, space itself seemed to ripple and shift as the Vanguard prepared to move again. The ship, part machine, part living entity, part folded reality, had become home to its transformed crew, but also a symbol of humanity's uncertain future in a universe more dangerous and wonderful than anyone had imagined. The eraser waited, temporarily contained but ever present. The Confederacy debated, torn between fear and necessity. Earth prepared, suddenly thrust into a role it never sought. And the Vanguard, evolved beyond recognition, yet still fundamentally human in its purpose, stood as the first and perhaps only line of defense against a cosmos unraveling at its seams. Next coordinates identified, announced Commander Zhou from her station. Probability of eraser manifestation, 78%. Thorne and Vance exchanged a look that conveyed everything words couldn't: determination, trepidation, the weight of impossible responsibility, and the solitary burden of being humanity's vanguard in a war few could even comprehend. Engage, Thorne ordered, and the ship responded, not just to his verbal command, but to his intention, his resolve, his very being. The Vanguard, carrying within it humanity's evolved future, vanished once more into the depths of space, ready to face whatever came next.